Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today we're waiting on our airline, and so Jan and I had a little time, and we're actually in Tucson, and I just got spending some days out at the grazing project in Cochise County, and Jan had some questions that she wanted to ask me that's from you all, the viewers, and I think there's going to be a lot of questions, and there's a lot of comments on this project, and rightfully so. It's a very important project. I think it has a lot to do with the American West and our water cycle. We do have a broken water cycle out here, and so what we're doing, we're bringing animals in to break the soil capping. That's just a real brief explanation of it. But Jan, you've got some questions from the viewers on this.
They want to know why we have black cows out in the desert with very little shade.
Yeah, so that was the question I saw yesterday on the video. And, you know, black cows versus red cows, if you put them in a really hot environment, the red cows are always going to do better because their hid's not going to get as hot. But we didn't have a choice on picking color. And I'll tell you, the fellow we have out there, Micah, he's a dream. He's really a sharp young fellow. He's heavily invested mentally, physically, emotionally in this project. He wants to do the best he can do. We are so fortunate to have Micah. I mean, his place is right across the road from us.
And he's a forward thinker.
He really is. And I made the comment, if Micah would have had purple cows, I'd have brought them on. Folks, we need the biology. We need the animal hoof print. And those cows are from that area. They're already adapted to the environment.
They're about the right size.
Yeah, they're not. Micah and I talked yesterday, and he's going to try and bring his cow size down a little. He thinks they're still a little bit leggy, and I agreed with him. But those cows are so docile, and that's because Micah's out there moving them. I'm a little bit skeptical of cows, so you don't spend a lot of time with them, but they get wild. But Micah's were so they were just laying down. We walked in amongst them, and so those cows are adapted. There's enough mesquite trees out on some of those paddocks they can have some shade. And you know, Micah gets in a shade issue, we'll build a shade mobile. You know, he's only got 60, 70 head in there. So the other thing is we may be done grazing that project before the summer heat really kicks in.
Right.
And so we may be done with that project, and we get this monsoon, summer monsoon in July, it grows back, then we'll be back again.
How long does he think he's going to be able to keep those cattle there? Did he say?
A lot longer than
a lot longer than we all thought.
Yeah. They were thinking maybe 45, 50 days, but it's going to be.
They've already been there.
They've already been there, and he's not even halfway through the farm, so he's going to get to stay there a long time.
Yeah, which we were all
probably most of the winter.
Yeah, they're thinking maybe March.
Yeah,
depending which.
Folks, that's a lot of forage out there, and it's gonna be nice.
Yeah, it's on how many acres?
480 acres.
Yeah. And that is enabling his farm
to rest.
Yep. And the beauty is, again, it's just virtually across the road from them.
Yep.
So, in the video, it sounded like those cows were very hungry. You want to tell how come they sounded that way?
Yeah, we had a few comments. People said, it sounded like you're making those cows off hungry. They need to be moved. I'm like, Micah let out a war whoop for the camera so we could get cows in the background. And sure enough, here they come. They're on the far end of the paddock. They walked off.
On 15 acres.
Yep.
And it was hard to find those cattle in there.
Yep. There's just a lot of brush.
Yeah.
A lot of mesquite.
And we didn't want to walk to them.
Right. So he let out a war whoop, and here they come. They came right up to the fence. And once they got there, they're like, Micah, you hard ass, you really need to be moving us.
Yeah.
That's what all the bawling was about. Ours will do the same thing.
Yeah.
But Micah did say, he said, I don't do this normally. If I holler at them, they get a reward. That's why they came. They thought he was going to move that wire. Well, he didn't. It wasn't time to move, and they had plenty of feed in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So how come there aren't sheep following behind these things?
Okay, so I've got that question, and you could put sheep in there. First of all, the sheep would need to be bonded onto those cattle, so you'd have to get them in tighter, get them used to each other, so the cows aren't, pounding on the sheep. You'd have to get them bonded to each other. You'd also need a little bit different fencing. Mike is able to strip graze out there with one poly braid that's about 30 inches tall. Well, with sheep, you're going to have to run another wire or two because the sheep would just walk underneath that wire. And there's also some predator pressure out there. There's coyotes out there. and those cows are going to work those sheep over. So you're going to have a guard dog in there. And so this is a research project, and we're trying to break the soil capping. We're trying to keep it simple. And so right now we're using cattle, but you could use both.
Right, and right now right next door they're building a subdivision, so there'll be neighbors.
Lots of neighbors' dogs out there. That's correct. And so you'd have to have a pretty good fence to keep those dogs. Well, if you had a predator, yeah. So if you had a guardian dog in there, now he's going to be barking at night, and now you got the neighbors. They're going to be hollering. We wish you'd shut that dog up. Well, the dog's doing his job. He's barking, keeping the coyotes and other dogs away from his sheep. So, yeah.
So someone was wondering, are they going to do like do some drones over the property so you can do like aerial visuals?
I would guess probably in the future there's going to be someone doing that. I don't know. I mean, it would be a good thing to do.
If they have it, we might suggest that.
Yeah. They're doing a really good job out there of monitoring. They're on top of this, folks. They're doing controls, in other words, where they set up a paddock to graze. They're leaving an area that's never been grazed since we put the project in. It's not going to be grazed for the whole length of the 5 years of this trial project. And so you're going to be able to go in there and actually see, okay, this was grazed and this wasn't. What happened in 5 years? What was the advancement where you grazed and what you didn't? And so I think that's important.
Well, and even within the different grazing, they're letting the cattle stay.
Correct.
15 acre, because they're set up for 15-acre.
They're altering the density.
Right.
So instead of doing like a 3-day move, they may be doing a 1-day move all the way up to like 6 days. So bigger paddocks all the way down to daily moves. And you can see the difference on those daily moves. And even Micah saw it. He said you could see the cows' condition were better. When the cows were moved every day, they were better. They were better shape. And animals like to move, period.
It's a psychological thing.
It is. It is. Yep. So you're moving cows every day. They get a little bit of candy bar each day. They get the very best each day. If you move them every 7 days, they get the candy bar, or maybe the first 2 days they eat all the good out of it, and then they're eating lower quality forage the last 5 days. That's what happens. Yeah.
So they're, like Greg said, they are doing counts, plant counts, insect counts.
It's going to be a very well-documented research project, and that's why I'm so excited about it. You got so many naysayers out there. So you got to get the animals off the ground. They just hate cattle. Some of that goes back to, rightfully so. There's been some people, rabid environmentalists. One was Dan Daggert, and Dan was cows are destroying the planet. And then he looked at people were managing the land and moving the animals across the land. Wait a minute. I've got more wildlife, I've got more green plants, I've got water flowing, and over here it's a dead environment where there's no animals. And he wrote a book, folks, it's called The Gardeners of Eden. You need to check that out. It's a great book. And so Dan, he's converted. He's like, oh my gosh, it's not the cow that's doing it.
Yeah, we could
see.
So
management.
Yeah. And we could
lack of management.
Right, lack of management. We could visually, without monitoring, just visually see the mesquite trees were the leaves were missing, branches were broke.
Yep.
Next in the control plot, next door neighbors, they had leaves. They looked very bushy, very happy. What was that other plant?
Desert broom.
Yeah, they loved them at that when they went in there the first probably 30 days. They snapped them off, eating them. And the ones next door were 3 feet tall, blooming, waving in the wind, laughing.
It's an invasive.
Yeah. So, Greg, we had a little excitement out there on the desert. the viewers might like to hear this.
Oh gosh, I about had a heart attack.
And I was about ready to run for the vehicles.
We got to the paddock where the cows were at. And there was a poly wire, and they had an O'Brien step-in post there. And Mike and I were talking about the O'Briens, and I walked up to grab this post. I had it in my hand, and Micah says, "Look out!" I'm like, "What do you mean, look out?" I looked down by my feet, and there was a rattlesnake. And I don't know, he was probably that big around. He'd been eating a bunch of mice.
Yeah, because they said they've had lots of mice in this field.
He was curled up in a mesquite bush, and he crawled out right by my leg. He didn't rattle. So
it was cold.
It was cold, but there was no rattling going on. And he's all, I mean, I was high stepping and getting out of there. I'm not a snake. I don't mind snakes as long as I see them, but I don't want them next to my leg, especially if they're a rattlesnake. So yeah.
That was kind of our excitement for the day, and
You don't see those in Missouri.
No, and yeah, so just have to put that in there as
That's the excitement. That's the excitement. It's part of the fun. But it wouldn't have been fun if he'd have bit me. But
yeah,
I think it was too cold
it
for him.
was too cold. He was not moving very fast. He just didn't like us being right by him.
He was a brute. Yeah. So anyway, with that, that's a good one to end up on, Jan. Everyone, have a great day out there, and please hit that subscribe button on the way out. And we appreciate all of y'all, and stay tuned to this project in Arizona. It's going to be good following the progress.
Yeah, we cannot wait for the rains to start coming back.
Yeah. Have a good one, folks. Take care.